Okay. All right, well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I see we've reached 7 o'clock, which is the scheduled start time for this public hearing. Tonight, we're convened to hear the rezoning for 1461 Marine Drive. And I have a bit of a script that I have to go through officially, formally, to open a public hearing, as it is a quasi-judicial setting. And so bear with me, it'll take a few minutes to go through this. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act. The chair has established the following rules for this hearing. 1, we will first go through the established speakers list. At the end of the speakers list, the chair may call for any other speakers not on the speakers list. You will have 5 minutes to address council for a first time. Begin your remarks to council by stating your name. After everyone who wishes to speak has spoken once, speakers will then be allowed one additional 5-minute opportunity. Any additional presentations will only be allowed at the discretion of the chair. Please do not repeat information from your previous presentations and ensure your comments remain focused on the bylaw under consideration this evening. If you've provided a written submission, there's no need to read it, as it will have already been seen by council. You may summarize or briefly reiterate the highlights of your submission, but ensure your comments pertain to the bylaw under consideration at this hearing. All members of the audience are asked to be respectful of one another as diverse opinions are expressed. Council wishes to hear everyone's views in an open and impartial forum. Some important notes about public hearings. Council is here to listen to the public, not to debate the merits of the bylaw. Council may ask clarifying questions. The clerk has a binder containing documents and submissions related to the bylaw which council has received and which you are welcome to review. This is available online at dnv.org/agenda. Everyone at the hearing will be provided an opportunity to speak. If necessary, we will continue the hearing on a second night. At the conclusion of the public input, council may request further information from staff, which may or may not require an extension of the hearing, or council may close the hearing, after which council should not receive further new information from the public. Finally, please note that this hearing is being streamed live over the internet and recorded in accordance with the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Before I hand the matter over to the clerk, I will just say that this is being conducted in a hybrid format. We have members of the public, council, and staff all participating both virtually and in person. It should be noted that we have 5 members of the council present in person. We also are present or through hybrid virtual connection. 2 members of the council, Councillors Bond and Councillor Murray, have expressed their regrets. If they wish to participate in the second and third reading, they will have to make themselves, avail themselves of the recording for this hearing before they can participate in second and third reading. At this time, I'm going to turn the matter over to the clerk for your comments on the introduction of the bylaw.
Thank you. Through you, your worship. Introduction of the bylaw. District of North Vancouver rezoning bylaw 1410, bylaw 8523. The purpose of the bylaw. Bylaw 8523 proposes to amend the district zoning bylaw by adding cannabis retail store as a permitted use for the property located at 1461 Marine Drive in the Lionsgate Village and Marine Drive corridor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so the order for the evening is first we're going to have a staff presentation, then we're going to have an opportunity for the applicant to make their remarks, and then we will proceed to the public sign-up list, and also which at this point does not have any speakers. But before we close off the public input, we're going to go and give everybody who has joined the meeting an opportunity to speak. And so first up, we have Mr. Hartford. I'm going to go to you for the staff presentation.
Your worship, thank you. Through you to council and members of the public, I will introduce Andrew Norton of the development planning team, and Mr. Norton will provide some background on bylaw 8523. Thank you.
Andrew Norton.
Thank you. Let me know if you can see my screen there.
Not yet.
Not yet, no.
Okay, it appears to be starting now. There you go.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay. So good evening, Your Worship, members of council, members of the public. Tonight's public hearing is for a text amendment to the district's zoning bylaw to allow cannabis retail store as a permitted use for the property at 1461 Marine Drive. This would accommodate a cannabis retail outlet to be operated by the provincial government. My presentation this evening includes 7 slides and is approximately 5 minutes in length. The proposed site, highlighted in red, is located at the southwest corner of Marine Drive and Phillip Avenue. The subject site contains a single-storey shopping centre comprising 10 units. The cannabis retail store is proposed in a commercial unit previously in use as a print shop. Uses surrounding the subject site include a mix of commercial and mixed-use properties on Marine Drive, a car showroom to the east, single-family dwellings to the south, and a restaurant to the west. The site is zoned Marine Drive Commercial Zone C9, which permits cannabis retail store when the use is listed in the table found in section 405B1 of the zoning bylaw. Bylaw 8523 proposes to add 1461 Marine Drive to the list of properties in this table, which will allow 1 cannabis retail store at this site. The subject property, highlighted in red, is a single-storey retail unit located within the shopping centre. Vehicle access is provided via 2 driveways from Marine Drive and Phillip Avenue. A total of 104 on-site parking spaces are provided for the shopping centre, with the main parking lots fronting Marine Drive and Phillip Avenue, and additional parking on the west side of the site accessed via McGowan Avenue. The parking available on site far exceeds the zoning bylaw minimum requirements of 70 parking spaces. The front entrance to the proposed cannabis retail store fronts onto the main parking lot. This entrance is set back from Marine Drive and Phillip Avenue. The proposal has been reviewed relative to the district's non-medical retail cannabis policy and has been found to comply, with the exception of the number of cannabis stores approved within a single key growth centre. The subject property is located in the Lionsgate Village Centre and Marine Drive corridor. On July 20th, 2020, Council approved the cannabis store at 1199 Marine Drive within this centre. This is located 500 metres east of the subject property. This store is not yet in operation, but a building permit was recently approved for interior renovations. No other applications are active for cannabis retail stores in this centre. The district's cannabis policy provides council with discretion to assess each cannabis retail store on a case-by-case basis. The proposal meets key guidelines, including the site is zoned to permit a liquor store, the site is more than 200 metres from any school, and the proposed operating hours are within the 9 AM to 9 PM permitted range. No major facade changes are proposed. However, window coverings and a graphic tree pattern are proposed in compliance with provincial screening requirements. Under the Provincial Cannabis Control and Licensing Act, private retail stores require a licence issued by the Provincial Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch. Public cannabis stores operated by the province are authorised under different legislation and do not require a licence. The Liquor Distribution Branch, which operates public BC liquor stores, is also the operator for public BC cannabis stores. While the Liquor Distribution Branch does not require a licence from the Provincial Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch, their operations are formatted to meet or exceed the requirements for private retail cannabis stores under the Cannabis Control and Licensing Act. As this proposal is for a public cannabis store, no licence is required, but rezoning is still necessary to accommodate the use on this site. Upon receipt of the application, 924 notices were distributed to neighbours within approximately 100-metre radius of the site, and 2 signs were placed on the property frontages in accordance with the district's notification policy. Further notification was undertaken prior to tonight's public hearing. Input received from these notifications is included in the public hearing binder. Thank you, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Now I'll invite the applicant to come up, and I believe it's up to 15 minutes that we allow. Yeah, we allow up to 15 minutes for the applicant to make their presentation. Feel free to make your comments as brief as you would like.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. I'm Ryan with the BC Liquor Distribution Branch. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you about our BC cannabis store application. We appreciate the time and effort staff and council have taken in the formulation of this retail cannabis store framework. So the BC LDB has a long history as a responsible retailer and wholesaler of regulated products. We operate 197 liquor stores and 31 cannabis stores across the province, with many more slated to open this year and next. So I have a brief presentation here to cover some of the key points about why we believe that BC cannabis stores are a good choice for a legal and responsible cannabis retailer in the district of North. Go to the next slide. Thank you. The purpose of BC cannabis stores is to make high quality cannabis products available to adult consumers, both new and existing. Our commitment to the retail of legal, independently tested cannabis products purchased from licensed producers is as paramount as our commitment to educate consumers during that process. Next page, please. Part of our commitment to social responsibility involves educating customers in store with messaging that is placed throughout the store, including keep cannabis away from youth, know the limit, start low, go slow, and don't drive high. Other ways we demonstrate our social responsibility include implementing a 2-ID check policy to ensure that minors do not enter the store, not even if accompanied by an adult, environmental initiatives such as the use of paper versus plastic bags, contribution of funds back to the province to be used for vital services such as healthcare and education. We also help educate consumers about the cannabis plant, cannabinoids such as THC and CBD, and terpenes, which give cannabis its distinctive taste and smell. We provide a comfortable setting for customers to review information prior to buying. Customer, employee, and community safety is paramount to our operation. We have a history of operating safe and secure stores. Our cannabis store design incorporates intruder and fire alarm systems, interior and exterior cameras, secure storage of cannabis and accessories, and smash-resistant windows. The LDB has been recognized as one of BC's top employers 11 years in a row. We will employ between 6 and 10 staff at this proposed location. BC Cannabis Stores offers jobs that pay living wages starting from $21 an hour and employment benefits and pension eligibility through unionized employment. All employees go through enhanced security screening. Comprehensive product knowledge training is provided for staff also. This next slide is about the sort of egalitarian process between public and private stores, so perhaps we'll just skip past this one. So let's take a tour of the store. You'll enter through 2 sets of doors to allow for staging of customers without the need to stand on the street. Vestibule area is on camera for a greater level of security. Before you can go any further, staff will perform an ID check requiring 2 pieces of government ID. All customers appearing to be 30 years of age or younger will be required to present ID. Government ID with picture, second piece of name and signature. Once you enter the store, you'll see an open, clean, and bright interior. The store has a West Coast contemporary look and feel. As mentioned, there are educational signage and social responsibility messages for all to see. We have tablets for customers to review the product assortment online. Our bud jars are sealed units that can only be accessed by store staff. We have a broad range of products, including edibles, which are limited to 10 milligram servings in child-resistant plain packaging. Cannabis retail inventory is stored securely off the sales floor and only handled by LDB employees. Accessories are in lockable cases. Thank you, Your Worship, members of staff, for the consideration of this application, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, as I said in the introduction, the speakers list does not have anybody signed up to speak on it. So I'm going to go out to see if there is interest from members of the public that have joined the meeting. So anybody wishing to add their name to the speakers list, feel free to raise your hand in the Zoom function. And just double checking, I don't see any phone-in participants, so we don't have to give out extra instruction for that at this point. Okay. I don't see any hands at this point, so I'm going to check in with staff. So I have had a question passed to me. Mr. Hartford, are you available?
I am, Your Worship.
The question from council is, are there plans or discussions by the provincial government to change the law to permit cannabis stores to have active as opposed to screened storefronts?
Through Your Worship to council, I can comment that there have been some changes already in the cannabis licensing system from the province. I think I should probably defer to the applicant to provide the details of that. The applicant is indicating that they are proposing to include a Mylar screen on the window frontage of their property, but my understanding is that for many stores in the province, that is no longer a specific requirement, but I will ask the applicant to respond more specifically to that question.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. So there have been some changes in the requirements. Opaque windows alone are not purely required, but we cannot show the product or transactions take place. So there are limitations. As a provincial entity, a branch of government, we obviously have to be the standard bearer for this approach. So what we've done in some locations is have a recessed glass opaque window to allow more light in, but still kind of follow the guidelines. So it's kind of a work in progress, but this is where we are now. But we're willing to work with the district if there are some design recommendations that you might want to see.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harper, just checking in, have there been any other questions submitted to you from council members?
There have not, Your Worship.
Okay, I don't want to cut that off prematurely. I do, Dr. Cost, you had indicated an interest in speaking. Are you prepared to make some comments at this point? You are muted.
Yes, Your Worship, I'm prepared to make some comments. My name is Corey Cost. I live at 2851 Colwood Drive near Edgemont Village. So I'm not directly impacted by the store being at a certain location like others are. I did note something noteworthy about the proposal, and that there are some monies that go to the province for education, and that appears to not keep the level playing field with the private facilities, which don't have such a requirement, I understand. This certainly is something in favor of the provincial stores. This is a zoning bylaw text amendment, by the way, and so I'm a little puzzled because I've always been a little leery about text amendments, and so I went to other municipalities and found a little bit more clarification from Coquitlam, which says that such amendments would affect all properties within that zone. So that concerns me, that all properties within the C9 zone would now have this ability to have a cannabis store. It's a technicality, I understand, but I would like some clarifications made to the public that in fact the way you are doing this, which is different than other municipalities, does not impact other properties in the same zone. As for the pros and cons, I would first like to note that both from the original document filed with the district and the additional information file, they contain identical information that I'm about to reveal. And that is rather curious. So I think it's best to put that up on the screen and share the screen. I'll select the one personal information. I'm not sure if you can see my screen.
Yes, it shows a very narrow screen. It only shows Lynn Creek Town Center, Lynn Valley Town Center, Lynn Creek Town Center. I can only see a few lines. Is it intended to be full?
Yes, then we'll go back here and get to the beginning of this. Staff stated, unfortunately, I have to scroll back a little bit more than what I would prepare to do. But I do want to make it clear. The staff indicated that this indeed does not exceed a maximum of one. The requirement is that you do not exceed more than one business per key growth center. And Marine Drive and Lionsgate is one center altogether. It may be a little confusing that Marine Drive is part of that one town center, but that's the way it is. And staff, as you can see, are highlighted in yellow, said that the district's cannabis policy provides council with discretion to assess each cannabis retail store on a case-by-case basis. And this is where I sort of stub my toe and find a big contrarian statement in the policy, the corporate policy that council has. I outline what the subject matter is, and I outline here that it does not exceed the maximum of one business for each of the following growth centers, and Lionsgate and Marine Drive is included in that. And there's the word planned with a star. And now comes the revealing statement. Star says additional businesses outside of the town and village centers may be given consideration on a case-by-case basis, subject to review of the merits of the application. Outside, not inside. In other words, council did not give itself the discretion, nor state that it would ever do so, to have more than one such business inside town center. So from that point of view, I conclude that council should not pursue this matter any further, since it's contrary to your policy and discretionary policy. A little puzzling situation, but that's the way it is. As for the pros and cons of this, I've already expressed that certainly this has a benefit of providing monies to educational purposes, which the private ones do not. So had I had a choice of choosing the private one or the government one, I would have chosen the government one. I still have overall concerns. This is my final statement on this matter for my first reading, first reading opportunity. I'm always concerned about candies or gummies since they attract clearly a element which is not the target for the cannabis business. So I hope that's useful to this council and their deliberations on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cost. Okay, I'm going to be checking back in again to members of the public. Anybody wishing to add their name to the list, raise your hand virtually online if you wish to speak. But I'm also, I don't see any other hands at this point, so I'm going to go back to staff again. Mr. Hartford, have you received additional questions that you have responses for?
Your worship, I have recently received 4 questions that all came in at exactly the same time. So you will have to give us a moment to prepare responses for those.
Okay.
Your worship, I can start with two of the questions. The
Please.
first question is, do the guidelines passed by council restrict the council from approving locations that do not conform with the guidelines? The answer to the question is covered on the last page of council's policy regarding evaluation of cannabis retail applications, and that is a section called council discretion. While this policy is intended to establish a framework which would apply to all rezoning applications for retail cannabis uses, council maintains full discretion to allow or reject any application for a retail cannabis use and may, in its sole discretion, exempt applications from all or any part of this policy. The next question is, does this text amendment affect all C9 zoned properties, or is it confined to 1461 Marine Drive? The C9 zone already permits cannabis retailing where a property is listed specifically in a table in section 405B1 of the zoning bylaw. This text amendment would add this specific property to that table. So it would not, this bylaw before you this evening would not change the land use rights for any other properties within the C9 zone or any other commercial zone in the district. The third question is, has the district received any complaints from the community about any cannabis retailers in the district? To clarify, stores that are operating in the district now, not concerns that were expressed before they opened. And for that question, I will ask if Mr. Norton can respond on the record of either bylaw or police complaints related to cannabis retailing in the district.
Thank you. Through your worship, I think it's worth pointing out that there's two cannabis retail stores in operation in the district at the moment. That is 1520 Barrow Street and 385 Dollarton Highway North. As part of this application, as part of the review of this application, we consulted with the RCMP. The RCMP, based upon their data, which was gathered from May 2020 to April 2021, the RCMP concluded that there's been minimal impact on calls for service as a result of the two cannabis stores in operation. So again, through consultation with the RCMP, they concluded that the calls for service were minimal. And so, to my knowledge, I've not received any complaints from the community directly. Again, going back to the RCMP's comments, there's been minimal impact from the operation of those two cannabis stores.
Thank you. Mr. Hartford, you mentioned there was a fourth question.
Your worship, it was 3 questions in total. One question was had a clarification email attached to it.
Got it. Do you have any additional questions that have been submitted?
I do not.
Okay. I'm going to head back to the public now. Would anybody like to speak a first or second time to this hearing? Okay, would anybody like, Dr. Cost, I saw your hand pop up. Just want to confirm, are you wishing to add to the hearing? Yeah, welcome. You have an additional 5-minute opportunity to speak to the hearing.
Yes, Your Worship. So I read the section before and I read it again, council discretion. And my interpretation was it did not, first of all, contain a word on a case-by-case basis, which clearly referred to the other section, which I said impacts those that are outside. So I just, from a public point of view, it was clear to me that the council had intended to have one inside the town center, and was pretty firm on that view, and that the other statement about council discretion essentially gave broader powers, but implied it was for outside the town centers. So I'm at a quandary here how to interpret when there's clearly a pointing to the words case-by-case basis, which is exactly the wording that was used, which said that the other consideration about it being outside of the town center. So I'll let council read your own guidance in this matter, your policy. And the policy, I think, was not meant to have more than one inside the town centers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cost. Would anybody else like to speak to the hearing for a first or second time? Okay, just checking back in with staff. Have you received any additional questions?
I have not, Your Worship.
Okay. So I'm going to come back again. Would anybody like to comment a first, second, or third time to the hearing? Okay. And so now I'm going to go through the process of exhausting the speakers list. And so I'm going to do this 3 times until we determine that we have exhausted the speakers list. So for a first time, would anybody like to address the public hearing for a first, second, or third time? For a second time, would anybody like to address the hearing for a first, second, or third time? And for a third and final time, I'll say, would anybody else like to participate in the hearing for a first, second, or third time? Okay, so to the clerk then, just want to clear that I believe we've established that we've exhausted the speakers list on the matter, and we have no further questions to the staff from the council. And so I'm going to now look to members of the council for direction. Councillor Back, you have a motion?
Yes, Your Worship, I would move that this public hearing is closed and the matter is referred to a future public regular meeting of council for consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Back. Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Hanson here in the chamber. Okay, I'm going to call a question on that motion. All those in favor? Contrary minded? The motion carries. And so this hearing is now formally closed. I'm just going to check in with the clerk. Do you have a proposed tentative date for when this is going to come back to a regular meeting for decision for second and third?
Through Your Worship, we're looking at the January 10th, 2022 meeting date in the new year.
Okay, so this item is temporarily in our schedule for January 10th. And I say temporarily because we don't confirm the agenda until the week leading up to it for regular meetings of council. But that's what we're looking towards right now. It's most likely when it will end up. If the date moves around, we'll of course be in touch with the applicant and we will advertise the new date in our regular meeting advertising that we normally do. So at this point, this hearing is now officially closed, which means that the council cannot receive any additional information from the public. And so members of the public, if you have any other comments, they will not be able to be shared with the council. They have to make their decisions or their comments at second and third reading based on the information that you've received so far. And so at this point, I'm going to declare that the hearing is officially closed. We've completed all of the business of the evening. And I want to thank everybody for participating in the public hearing and including council staff, the applicant and members of the public. And wish you all a safe, rainy evening. Good night.